Welcome to the
I'll bring
Wake Up
another.
Show Chicago.
Rise and shine. It's the Wake Up Show, where every sunrise is a call to action. Powered by the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce, we are the champions of change, advocating for diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the world of corporate and government contracting. It's not just a show, it's a movement. So get ready for another dynamic journey as we wake up the world to a new era of opportunities and empowerment. Ladies and gentlemen, President Larry Ives.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up Show Chicago, powered by the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce. I am your host, MC Pearson, and in studio on today, I have my other co-host, the incomparable LaDonna Raeh. Good morning, Ms. Raeh.
Good morning, Mr. Pearson. It is so good to see you, and we're coming back off this conference thing. Like
Come on
we've
now.
been pushing it and pumping it up this whole time, and I'm so excited about the whole fact that the whole week, ever after the conference, we have had nothing but follow up, follow through, don't give up, and all that good stuff. Thank you, Brian Brown, because the matchmaking session and all of the things that were going on, we've connected with corporations that want to work with us.
And the fact that the matchmaking that we, oh my God, there's still some people who don't know what matchmaking is, right? The matchmaking is when we brought together all of these major companies, right? And these companies are like ComEd and Wind Creek and university systems, Illinois university systems, and they brought their procurement people, and we actually made a lane. We actually made a lane for businesses like yours and mine to actually sit down with them. You oftentimes you look for ways to connect with different companies so that you can do business with them because you got a product or a service that they can definitely use, and you're trying to find out who do I contact. And see, the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce and our prayers, Mr. Larry Ivory, they cut through all that red tape and slide you right on up to the table so that you can find out what it is that they do. Wait, here, hold on. See, if you missed it, you missed it, but you got to be there next year. That's just like the airport authority was there, right? And the airport authority, you know what they brought? They brought catalogs, and those catalogs had all of the categories that they purchase. How easy is that to do business with them? You know exactly what it is that they're looking for, what they're shopping for, what products and services, but you couldn't get it unless you was at the conference.
And not only that, I mean, you got to be prepared. I always ask people, what would you say if you were in front of X? If you were in front of Oprah, if you were in front of the Illinois Department of Transportation, if you were in front of the Aviation Center, what would you say about your business? And if it's then you're not prepared. So, but this was also a conference that helped people get prepared. There were individuals there that were experts in their field, yes, but they didn't know everything. No one knows everything.
No one knows
So we were
everything.
able to pull together and learn some things, some terminology, some technology, I should say, and we would learn the process of how to become a preferred vendor for a lot of these different companies. You don't have to be, 24 deep with your staff. You can be one person or you can be 100 people, and you can still qualify to work with these corporations. So
Yeah, it's amazing that you said that. You said preferred vendor list, right? And that was one of the things that shocked me the most because see, you can go out there and you can find out how you can register with various municipalities, various cities in order to do business with, right? And so I had some of that information already, but sitting down at the table with the city of Champaign and a couple other cities, and then they tell you how to get on their preferred vendors list. How do you get on the list of where they have to look at this list first before they go outside and just do any type of general shopping. They look for vendors to do certain things for them. And so I think that was one of the things that I most enjoyed about this particular conference. And you know what? The Robert Johnson talking about franchising. So oftentimes we hear people talk about franchising and how much money you have to have, how much money you have to have in the bank, how much liquid you have to have, but we never hear the conversations about buying a franchise that is already existing. How those barriers or those challenges that you have to overcome evaporate. So there's a huge conversation. I often tell people, if you want to know where the money is, you got to figure out what they're not talking about.
I'm about to buy
where are the
up a whole
quiet,
bunch of
right?
franchises.
What are the quiet places that they don't want to have conversations about? And that's actually one of the things we're going to be doing on today's show. We got Mr. Lee Coleman is on the show with us today. We're going to be talking about the sheltered market on today and helping you to unpack that and see what that's all about, because some people are saying sheltered market, is there an area of the city that you can go and the homeless people can live? No, it has absolutely nothing to
Wait,
do with
what?
that.
Wait,
And the
what?
fact, well, sheltered, and then market is there.
Oh my
Come on, man, I'm trying to work with me here.
It's not like a tent marketplace,
right?
people.
And exactly, it's not that. So the question ought to be, why don't I know what this is? Why is it that I'm not familiar with this? Especially if you're a small business owner. What is this thing? And we're going to unpack that on today's show. So with that
Well,
being said, go ahead.
the pictures finally came back. I don't want to beat this like a dead horse. And did you see those fashion show pictures?
You-
I just happened to be in every single picture.
I was about to say, I think you were featured
Yeah.
in many of those pictures.
But aside from that, it was just a beautiful way to relax after all of that information. It was almost information overload, but we were able to chill with that fashion show. And we had beautiful singing from Elise Baker. She was amazing. So we're going to go to commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking to Mr. Lee Coleman, I'm sorry, and additional folks like Roland. Roland is on the phone with us. And you
Yes.
got to listen. It's Roland Butler. He's got some black coffee for you, but not what you thinking. Right here on the Wake Up Show,
Black
Chicago.
coffee, no sugar, no cream.
And we are back. That is definitely our commercial break. That's right. Get out, register, and vote. You know the DNC is coming to Chicago.
Come on now.
But if you're not registered to vote, you just taking up space. I'm sorry. Okay. But we got Mr. Roland Butler on the line. He was at the conference. He was super excited. And I was super excited because I just love the smell of black
Man, black coffee, no sugar, no cream. Come on.
coffee. Okay, Heavy D.
Mr. Butler, what's going on?
It is awesome. Thank you for inviting me to speak today. I mean, the Black Chamber of Commerce with President Larry Ivy and the whole team was unbelievable. Believe me, as a black businessman, we had the opportunity to see the Black Chamber of Commerce really do above and beyond its duty. I mean, we were introduced to large corporations to expand our coffee, and it was just amazing of the number of large corporations there participating in the DEI program. I mean, when you speak of large corporations to get contracts, not lip service, but performing and doing what they did. I was just so amazed been in business for years, but nothing like the Black Chamber of Commerce.
Man, those are high praises. Roland, this is MC. I heard you say expand our coffee. And I've heard great praises about your coffee. Doc, what is the name of it and what is the website? Because the moment that you say expand coffee, I know somebody, those coffee lovers out there say we need you to unpack that a little bit more. We need to know the name of your company and how to get to it also. I don't want you to gloss over that because it's good stuff. Go ahead.
Okay, the name of the company is X Coffee USA. The brand name is X Coffee. Now the website is X-Coffee, COFFEE, USA.com. And we're upgrading our website now because of the Black Chamber of Commerce, because of the volume of business that we receive.
And
by Wednesday of this coming week. Please log on, order, tell us what you think, and please let us know the taste of the coffee. And the coffee is coming from overseas, Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, Burundi, African countries, and some South American countries. So please check us out.
Well, now I know all of those people that are going straight to Starbucks, guys, just make a consideration and go to this website instead. But we have Larry Ivory on the line, and Larry was so excited about having you on the show today, as we all are. I visited your vendor booth, but Larry is definitely going to have some feedback for us, because he does not play when it comes to coffee, especially Black coffee. Right, Larry?
I'm trying to tell you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Roland is so happy, so glad to have you on the show. And people don't know, I've had a chance to get to know you in terms of how long you've been in the coffee business, because you had 2,500 stores that had your coffee, Kroger stores that had your coffee around the country. You meet Cicely Tyson. There's an incredible story about what happened with you and Cicely Tyson, that people really don't get a chance to quite understand like I understand. But the fact that we're doing business in Mother Africa and we're able to cut out the middleman, and you're able to bring this coffee and roast it and white label it, is pretty impressive. My hats off to you, man, for everything that you're doing.
Yes.
He's speechless. He's speechless, Larry.
I didn't know if there's any other nuggets you want to drop on us, but we love what you're doing. The Chamber will be promoting you. You are a member of our organization, and we love what you're doing, man, on the coffee side.
Thank you. And, I just want to say we had a dinner for the president of Burundi. And he came to Washington, D.C., and we had a dinner for the president, Cicely Tyson, and a lot of dignitaries were there. We were all going back together, but we waited for Miss Cicely Tyson while she was filming. Now, when he went home, he had a coup took place. And so we held up on the operation. But I just want to say we've been doing coffee in and out for over 40 years. We know we had a brand out at one time called Afri Cafe. And that coffee was in over 2,500 Kroger stores. We today are moving very fast and forward, rebranding. And we thank Mr. Larry Ivy, for really working with us to move the product, move Mother Africa back in. And when you buy Maxwell House Folgers and the other brands, think about buying a superior coffee. Organic, hand roasted, we don't roast 500 pounds every 20 minutes. Our roast, we have a slow roast, which keeps the quality of the coffee at a high level. We thank you. We want you to just try it and see what you think and compare our product with that of the other companies.
Well,
And I thank Mr. Larry Ivy for working diligently hard. The Black Chamber of Commerce, when they get behind you, brother, you got something.
I know that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Roland. I really appreciate you coming on, and everybody knows where to go to get that coffee. I'm not even a coffee drinker, but I tell you what, I'm a coffee sniffer. And I came over to your table and I smelled the goodness. Okay. So thank you very much. And I'm gonna bust it out because you gave me a sample. So I'm gonna bust it out and try it. And I'm gonna let everybody know how it is. And we thank you so much for being on the Wake Up Show Chicago. We're gonna get on to our next guest, but before we do, I've received a message from one of the participants at the conference where they said, because of the conference, I'm in front of one of the largest insurance companies, Aetna, discussing a call center project that would require new hires of over 30 people sourced from the west side of Chicago as early as 2025. The chamber is consequential, but businesses must be ready for their shot, which we are. That's straight from Jesse. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. And there are benefits to coming to the conference and being a member of the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce. This is the Wake Up Show Chicago, yes, but there are many benefits behind us. We are powered by the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce, and there are benefits to being a member. Membership has its benefits. Now we're going to get on to our next guest who is here with us virtually. Um, this gentleman comes by way of, there's a lot of things I want to say. We're already working with we have relationships in the MOU that was signed at the conference with Zimbabwe. And when you see his presence, you're going to see the representation of Africa. And this is so important because a lot of times when we are in America, we pull away from our African roots.
Come on.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to join us in welcoming Mr. Lee Coleman. Hi, Lee.
How are you?
I am wonderful. Wake Up for Chicago.
Yes, ma'am. Glad to be here.
Thank you, sir. So the Illinois Department of Transportation is your vehicle, sir. And just tell us, what was your experience with working with the chamber and the conference that took place last week?
Well, I didn't make it to the conference, but I've been to many conferences. In fact, I've been part of the Black Chamber since 2001, when I first met Larry Ivory. And I want to say this about Larry Ivory. If there's any black man who has made, I would say, the ultimate sacrifice to help black people, it's this brother. Larry's totally committed to helping black people, black businesses, to a fault. I always tell him it's to a fault. So I roll with Larry wherever he goes, whatever he wants me to do. I roll with Larry because we argue, we fuss, we fight, we ball about fists at each other from time to time. But one thing I know about Larry Ivory, he's black on the outside and on the inside. So that's my black brother.
Well, what's it like having an argument with Larry? No, I'm sorry.
I tell you what it is. One thing about Larry will argue tooth and nail. But one thing I really love about this brother, if your argument is better than his, even though he may have been with that argument for years, if you can prove to him your argument is better than his, he will adopt it. He'll roll with good advisors. That's great. He will roll with the best advice, and he will acquiesce. If your light bulb is better than his. I love that about it.
They say come with the receipts.
Right.
Come with the receipts.
A couple of times you hit the table on it. Bam! I said, what that mean, man? You used to box a few years ago, but I'm 72, but I'm in great shape. I do 20,000 steps a day. You don't want none of this. Unless you're going to last more than 3 minutes.
So, Larry, you thought it was extremely important to have Lee on the show today. And it's because, the richness of what he brings. Doc, what was there specific that you said Lee got to be on the show because we're unpacking this special conversation on today?
Well, let me say that when we think about infrastructure, there are two areas of interest. One is horizontal, which is highways, and one is vertical, which is buildings and everything else. But as most people know, the president and they passed a bipartisan bill with trillions of dollars to infrastructure. And infrastructure is normally used as a way of stimulating the economy. And Congress put a lot of money in the infrastructure. The budgets of departments of transportation has gone up about triple. And Lee has a background with the Illinois Department of Transportation in the second largest district with the EEO officer. And Lee was a legend. He got the Arthur Fletcher Award. And we don't give that award to anyone unless you really deserve it. And I watched Lee Coleman fight and unapologetically put his job at risk to make sure that Black contractors had a seat at the table. He challenged the federal government. He challenged the Secretary of Transportation. He challenged everybody. And I'll never forget the day we had a big conversation about IDOT, and we were doing our strategy with the Secretary of Transportation. Lee happened to be sitting next to me, and I decided that it was time to turn over the table. And I turned over the table and pretty much didn't literally turn over the table. We got up and walked out because that was a part of the overall game plan. And when I got up and walked out, who was walking behind me was Lee. And Lee worked for the Department of Transportation. I said, man, what are you doing? He said, man, I'm with you. So that speaks to his commitment and maybe his degree of insanity at the same time. But Lee, I want us to talk a little bit about what we're seeing with all this money being spent. How well are Black people and Black contractors doing with the Department of Transportation? Because sometimes when there's so much money and so much going on, we sometimes forget about our participation. So I'd like for you to kind of give us a perspective in terms of what you saw and what you're seeing. And more importantly, before the show ends, maybe some things that we can take and do that we need to do. But I know that the numbers are coming down. So give us your perspective, Lee, on what you see happening, why it's so important for us to engage in this conversation.
Yeah, the transportation departments across the country, they're dealing with billions of dollars. And even in my district, District 8, I oversaw $1 billion worth of work every year out for 12 counties. It's huge money. A couple of things, in my opinion, it's an abysmal record for Black contractors right now, subcontractors. We did a trending study back in 2007, and it showed that Hispanics were trending upward, women were trending upward, and Black business were trending downward. Okay, so that's been the trend since 2007. And with the advent of bid shopping, which is illegal, telling a guy, we know Larry bid at this amount. If you bid this, then I give it to you. And all of those are under market rate bids. So that business who undermined Larry to get the bid, he couldn't make it to the end of the project. So it's very important that we first and foremost get more Black businesses involved. How do you get more Black subcontractors? Well, most Black...
Lee, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but we have to go to commercial break.
Okay.
And hold that thought right there. And we're on the Wake Up Show Chicago. We'll be right back. Right back. Go ahead, Lee, and continue where you left off, sir.
Okay, I was saying that most of your DBE contractors, they come from the workforce. A guy may have been a laborer or a cement mason, And he took his trade and he said, hey, guess what? I think I can own a company in this area. But guess what? There's a lack of black people in the trades because the unions, basically the white workers party from the past, still hold the same philosophy that is for white people. So you got very few black people in the trade unions. And therefore, you're going to have fewer black contractors as a result of that. So we must work heavily as an organization to get black people into the trades. And one of the things that we had as a tool that Lyndon Johnson signed back in the 60s was Executive Order 11246, which was 16 affirmative action steps that a contractor had to have in place in order to pass his yearly evaluation. Now, prime contractors are pre-qualified and DBEs are certified. You can be totally bankrupt and be a DBE because you're a disadvantaged business enterprise. But prime contractors have to have a certain dollar value to do work at that level. For instance, if Larry Ivory wanted to be a bridge builder and his worth was about 100 million, he can be pre-qualified at 100 million plus his skill set. But when we evaluate those contractors under 11246, guess what happens? If Larry does not meet that, does not pass his evaluation for maybe 2 consecutive years without explanation as to why he didn't, that number, that pre-qual number will go down. I had one contractor who was pre-qualified at 114. When I got through putting that pin on, he was down to 14 million. So that's the power of the EEO officer. And what they try to do at IDOT, they try to control the EEO officer. The EEO officer is there as a result of the DB liaison concept that the Federal Highway Administration demands. The Federal Highway Administration demands that each agency that receives highway money must have a DBE liaison. And that person would have unfettered access to the secretary without going through the chain of command. He can just walk down the hall and bust in his office and say, look, we've got a problem with these funds. Okay, so that's when they created the Office of Business and Workforce Diversity, OBWD. So back in the day, Larry Ivory had a good relationship with Robin Black, the Chief of Staff to the Secretary. And that's when she made the EEO officers DBE liaisons. So it was 9 of us. And we were governed by the Office of Business and Workforce Diversity. That's who evaluated us. And that was too powerful. They fired Robin Black and they sent the EEO officer back to the districts. And guess who was our supervisors? The implementation engineer. Now, what the heck does he know about, EEO? So they got an unqualified person who oversees the EEO officer and who evaluates them. So what they really want to do is make sure that you cater to the systemic racism in the building or in the culture of IDOT. So they put subliminal threats to you. Those goals were too high. You need to lower those goals. I'm not telling you to do it now, but so the industry is putting pressure on the IDOT officials, and they are in turn putting pressure on the EEO officers. So the first thing we got to do is get the EEO officer back to OBWD, and that's who should be evaluating them, not the cat watching, the fox watching the hen house, which is where it is now. And go ahead.
Let me interrupt you just for a second. One of the things I think is important when you talk about EEO officers, there used to be there was normally a significant number of African Americans as EEO officers. Those numbers have changed again.
Wow.
And where you used to have African Americans, you now have white women. And you and I have talked
and white males.
Yeah, and they lack some degree of sensitivity when it comes to our participation. That's why we've seen the numbers go down all across the state, where we had goals in our district at one time that was 18, 19%. Now our goals are 2 and 3% at the most. And that's trending across, even though the amount of money has tripled, the amount of participation has come down at the same time. And I always make this point is that infrastructure is funded by a motor fuel tax, which means that you put gas in your car, you're funding highway infrastructure. So I'll pivot and throw that back to you, Lee.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's important that the EEO officer is sensitive, to that, because the EEO officer actually sets the goals. You might have an aspirational goal of 18 or 20%. That's the aspirational goal. It could be lower or higher, depending on the scope of work. They call them pay items. If you got enough DBEs in the pool and the pay items are similar to what they do, then you can raise that goal. One of the problems we had with IDOT way back was, even though all of the disciplines at EEO at IDOT were certified by the same process, they said, well, you can't use trucking to set your goals. Well, every project's going to have trucking, bringing stuff in and out. So I was the only EEO officer in the state that used trucking to help put 4 or 5% more of my goals after I set it with the established pay items. And so they didn't like that, but they found out the Federal Highway Administration backed me on that. So we got to make sure the EEO officers are independent. See, we don't do a lot of homework. We do a lot of implicit work. But I tell people, and I'm a school teacher too, there's implicit and explicit rules and regulations. Implicity is implying that something is law. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily. And they actually went by that. They said it was implicit that you didn't use the truckers. But in the Code of Federal Regulations, the Bible that I use, it expressly tells you that, yeah, you can use trucking because they got certified like anybody else. And most of the DBEs at IDOT are what? Truckers. So they weren't even being included in the goal setting process. And they was all dumping on me saying I was wrong. But the Federal Highway Administration backed me on that. So what we got to do, Larry, the reason why they can justify low goals now, the pool of DBEs are low. And they're low because of the bid shopping and the lack of higher goals that they had, these EEO officers are setting. So what we got to do now is go to the pool, and that's the workforce, and get those guys out of the workforce and encourage them to join to get certified. That's what we're really lacking. So that's where we start. Another thing is there's a thing called the administrative code. And do you guys know that under the administrative code in Illinois, we gotta get on this stuff, man. Under the administrative code, you cannot FOIA the participation level of a prime contractor. It's especially written that you cannot FOIA to see if Larry Ivory is complying. Okay, we've got to change that. Yes.
Is that federal or is that state?
That's state. The administrative code. That's why it's against the federal law to say you federal funds and I can't see what the heck you're doing.
Lee,
you can copy the administrative code because I took a lot of stuff with me when I went. If you look at the administrative code, it will especially tell you, and that's the document that we use to evaluate contractors from 0 to 6, 6 being the highest, based on their compliance. It's not subjective, it's objective. In my area, the minority goal is demographically driven. Okay, in Chicago is 19.1, and my area is 14.7. But the female goal is 6.9 across the whole country. Every trade should have 14.7 minorities on it and 6.9 females. If they do not have that, and they cannot give a justifiable explanation as to why that's not there, then they get a low grade on their evaluation. And the more low grades you get, the lower their pre-qual number goes down. These are the tools that we have that we got from the federal government through Martin Luther King and our 1964 Civil Rights Act. So we must make sure that 11246 works for us. And then when it comes to the trade unions, there's an office called OFCCP, the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Program. They actually oversee the unions. They sanction the unions. They approve of their apprenticeship programs. So why is the OFCCP approving apprenticeship programs who are supposedly diverse in terms of making sure that there's enough minorities and women in these apprenticeship programs in order to approve them? They're not doing that because nobody's watching the store. So we need to get on top of that. And we need to try to revitalize Senate Bill 263 that Senator Claiborne put in place. And it addresses all the things that I'm talking about today. So we got to go in and do some administrative work in order to improve the plight of black businesses in the state at IDOT, which is filthy in terms of running over with funds that should be going to minority people, but they're not there because of the harsh treatment that they've gotten throughout the years in this program.
You know, Lee, I think one of the issues that we also have is the fact that, you know, back in the 80s and the 90s, a lot of the people who entered the trades, they got a taste of those trades in high schools, and in many of the inner cities, a lot of those trade programs in the high schools have been all but eradicated. And so we have, you know, and a lot of the inner city schools are where our people are being educated. So, you know, we're not putting the trade schools there. And then the other side of the coin is, I often tell people, when they want to know where the money is, you got to figure out what they're not talking about. And so, you know, case in point, when we're talking about more Black people in these trades, you know, a lot of people don't even know a lot of the trade unions actually have the classes for you to go and take for you to go. Go ahead.
We remedy that, but we're not on it as a Black community.
Right.
In 2007, Senator Claiborne, myself, he was our state senator, Representative Wyvetta Young, and a Black contracting organization called MEPCO, Metro East Black Contracting Organization, we petitioned the Federal Highway Administration to put $500,000 a year into we call it junior colleges,
Mm-hmm.
to do a program that will give a cursory education and training to prospective tradesmen. And guess what? We did it in District 8, and guess what? It's called a Highway Construction Prep Program. So we don't need, it's good if you get them in schools, but guess what? We've remedied that since 2007. And guess what? They're in each district. Each district has a Highway Construction Prep Program. And that's where you can take kids with a high school diploma and get them into that program. And they should train them, okay? And for 10 weeks, paying them $100 an hour, okay? And so guess what? Now the union don't have an excuse to say they're on drugs, they can't do math, sixth grade math and reading, okay? And they don't have the work ethic. These kids on a strict, program. And we've got them. When I left IDOT in 2019, we had over 600 kids go to that program, and only 12 even got an interview. So that's what we got to correct. And guess what? Now they got the union sitting on those boards. So we got to answer to what you talked about, brother.
We got to go to commercial. Lee, I'm so sorry. I hate to be sliding in on
That's okay. Hey, I'm ready. Come on.
But everybody, you're listening to the Wake Up Show Chicago. I'm LaDonna Raeh, and MC Pearson is here, and Larry Ivory's on the line. And we've got Mr. Lee Coleman, a former employee of the IDOT. So we'll be back. He's got some power and some fire, y'all. Let's go.
All about Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce. And as I always like to say, don't be stingy. You need to share this show on YouTube and on Facebook. And then, of course, you need to like and subscribe. So, Brother Lee, you know what? My question is this, though.
Before you ask me that question, let me just interject here, if you don't mind, MC, is that, one of the things that I think is really important that Lee and I often discuss when it comes to the Illinois Department of Transportation. You got to understand, the road builders are a very powerful group of people who, they advocate and lobby for money for infrastructure, and they go to Washington, and they're pretty formidable. And normally when someone from IDOT leaves in a critical position, they go work for some of these companies as a rule of thumb. The other side of that equation is that we have to understand that the unions and others aren't always as interested. They don't want to have to comply to any minority participation. If it's up to them, they would simply get rid of it. And we have to understand that there are forces out there who perhaps don't want to see more diversity. They want to see less diversity. And what we're seeing that we're concerned with is the trend that we're seeing the numbers of African Americans participating in IDOT go down significantly. And no one's sounding the alarm. No one's saying, wait a minute, we got a problem. We need to put together a task force to take a look at what we're going to do. We need to invest more money. They're simply going on as is. And that's detrimental to our kids and to our future at the same time. So I yield to that and pass it back to Mr. Coleman.
Yeah, I do agree with that. But going back to the trade schools, the cursory highway construction prep program, we were getting such an abysmal response from the unions. The unions are like the police patrol, which is not the fugitive slave police patrol. It's not a police department. And what their job to do to control black men, and doing slavery, catch them and bring them back. Well, the White Workers' Party, after slavery ended, guess who were all the tradesmen? Even down to riding horses, black men were. So they were qualified for all the construction jobs, vertical and horizontal. So what they did, they formed the White Workers' Party, which is systemically racist, which was designed to keep black people out of the trade unions and to make sure they were really white. Okay? But then the federal government came in with the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Program. They said, wait a minute, we're going to approve of your training programs, your apprenticeship programs. And you must have some equity in terms of race and gender. And that office is not doing its doggone job. If there's any agency in the state and federal government, because they're under the U.S. Department of Labor, unions are afraid to death of these guys, but they're not engaged. Because guess what happens? The unions send their guys to take over those jobs in OFCCP. Even in the U.S. Department of Labor and the Illinois Department of Labor are former union people. So they're not on our side. So we have to kick them in the tail, make them do their jobs. But going back to the sister's question about FOIA, it's FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. When you got federal dollars involved, there's no way on God's green earth can you say we don't have a right to know what the hell you're doing. So we got some internal administrative stuff to get done before we take it to the streets. And we're not doing that. Most of us don't do that. We just say, it's wrong what you're doing. Well, quote me the code, the CFR that says it's wrong.
So we've got an ending problem and we've got a beginning problem. I'm a mother. I'm a boy mom. Like I got 4 sons. And when I see that I'm able to push my 2 older boys through college and watch them still struggle to get employment, okay, because now they don't have a trade. I'm sending them through the pipeline of, okay, go to school, get a job, get education, all that good stuff. But now I have 2 younger boys remaining at home. And already I'm trying to plant the seeds and show them and take them on tours where they can go to college and go ahead and get that 4-year degree. And we spend all this money so that we at least qualify to say that we want our foot in the door. But if the trade schools are being taken away, MC and I were having a brief conversation, and I really want him to tell everybody listening what he shared with me.
Well, it was just the idea that, a lot of the kids, we need to get to them in the high schools, because a lot of them, once they turn 18 years old, if we haven't already sparked that interest while they're in their most formative years, those 4 years of high school, that was a reason that we had trade schools in high school. You know what I'm saying? And by the time they hit 18, we might get them in college. We might not get them in college. And, if you talk to a lot of the Chicago public school teachers, a lot of them will tell you that when they get these kids in freshman year, they're either A, training them to get to university or B, training them to get out the door because they don't have the trades within the high schools. And so I think one of our issues here is the fact that we're not training them in the high schools. If we get them to college, yeah. But what about all the ones that we lose once they walk across that graduation stage? And I think that it's systematic that it was taken out of a lot of the inner city schools, because once you go out to Joliet and you go out to Plainfield, they have those trade schools. So, but we also have another caller on the line. Who we got, Miss LaDonna?
We got Miss Kathy Dale. Hi, Kathy. Good morning.
Good morning, good people. This is a very interesting conversation, and thank you for having it. I would just venture to say it really needs to start in 6th or 7th grade so that our children can learn the math and learn about the trades even before high school. But I called to really say congratulations on a very successful convention this year. I wanted to thank the chamber, Larry, as opposed to being, an attendee there. It was lots of fun. The thing is, I'd like to say thank you so much to the chamber for having an award in Bob's name, and a special congratulations to Dr. Jeffrey Shirley for receiving that award, the Lifetime Achievement Award in Bob Dale's name. So continue to do all the good work. Know that I'm here to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you so much.
Well, I can add to what the brother said and the sister said about getting them early interested in the trades. Cool. And the high schools are not having it. But why don't we connect these high schools with, in every one of your districts, it's 9 districts. There's a highway construction prep program in your district. Let's coordinate that with our Board of Education that maybe have those kids go into that program. It's already paid for. $500,000 a year in each district. And they're not yielding any results in terms of kids going into the union. So we got some administrative stuff to do. We got the tools if we know how to implement them. Everything is there for us. Going back to Senate Bill 263, which Claiborne put into place when he was Senate President, hey, we got to go back and resurrect that bill. That bill is so powerful. There is union people calling me in my office. Hey, what the hell is this? Or do you know Senator Claiborne? I said, yes, I know him. What about this bill? I said, ask Senator Claiborne. Read it yourself. That bill died. We need to get that back on the table.
Yeah.
All right. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows where to find the information that we're talking about today and on any previous show. And if you're hearing about the conference that we had last week, there are pictures that are posted. I've got text messages coming in asking where those pictures can be found and where the information can be found to pre-register for next year's conference. If either you missed it or if you just want more, because next year is the 20th year anniversary. So if you go to ilbcc.org, make sure that you look for the B. It's a black and white icon or logo, and the site is blue and gold. It says Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce. I'm being very specific because there are other sites out there that sound very similar, but they are not us. So make sure that you look for us. You see Larry Ivory, it's us. If you see his team, it is us. And make sure you pre-register. And what we're having for a limited amount of time is if you pre-register at $50 deposit, we will match. I'm sorry, they will match because I don't have $50. The Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce will match your $50 deposit to go towards your registration fee for next year in 2025 for our 20-year anniversary. And it will be at Wind Creek Casino. Exciting news.
So you're saying I'm going to have $100 credit by putting down $50?
Well, you'll have a $50 deposit that you're putting down and we'll match it. So those of you that have a 401k plan, y'all know what I'm talking about. But if you pull out, we keep our 50, but you ain't pulling out. See, I'm sorry, I went into details about that, but definitely you want to take advantage of this offer because it's only going to be going on for a couple of more weeks. And I think we've missed one of those. So maybe one more week. Oh, we got a couple of the mics going. Larry was saying something.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Larry.
I'll yield to my special guest. Lee, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, I was talking to the people in my area because Larry's going to come down in a couple of weeks and address the black contractor problem here in my area at St. Clair County. I tell all of them, just like you need a doctor to take care of your ailment. When you get into legal problem, you want a lawyer to represent you. When you're in the contracting in the business area, you need a representative like the chamber because they would love to get you isolated and you're fighting on your own to get justification. But you're hiring the chamber to do all that work because what I found out in my district, we had one of the contractors who had the biggest organization in our area. You know what they did? They gave him a $5 million contract and he sold us out. So you need representation. We're not going to sell out as a chamber, but we need you guys to join, pay your way, because it takes money to do what Larry is doing, and hire him as your representative. He walks into those meetings for you. We'll walk into those meetings for you. Well, you say, well, a lot of people say, they see my face, they're going to discriminate against me. That's what I'm saying. Let Larry handle that. Join his organization, and you just hire what's akin to a lawyer or a doctor to handle your problems.
Yeah. Well, Lee, let me say again, thank you for all your expertise. And I just want to put it on the record that the Chamber, one of its major objectives is to help to correct some of the deficiencies in the Illinois Department of Transportation. We ain't throwing dirt on anyone. We simply know what the numbers say, and the numbers say we're not doing well, so we need to fix it. So Lee and I and our construction committee will be working on what we can do to make things better for African Americans in their trades, in their construction with IDOT, and also with the Capital Development Board on the vertical construction. But that's a part of our critical objectives that we have as a chamber organization is to become a clarion voice and sound the trumpet that others perhaps are not even aware of the disparity that exists, and bring it to the Secretary of Transportation, Omar Osmond, and sit down with those individuals and make sure they understand this is our money also, and we have a right to participate where our dollars help create the opportunities. But we know that there's a very sophisticated fight, but we got to get down to the brass tacks of understanding the rules. That's why Lee is a part of our team, because Lee knows it backwards and forward. And so we ask you to join us in this fight for equity and inclusion, not just in that area, but we got a lot of fighting, but this is one of the areas that we have made a priority as a chamber organization.
Well, you know what that sound means. That sound means that it is at the end of our hour. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the Wake Up Show Chicago. We are here each and every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can find us on Facebook. Look for the Wake Up Show Chicago. And we've got 211 subscribers. So I know I saw about 400 and some people at the conference alone. And that number should have gone up by at least that number. Y'all hit that subscribe button on YouTube. We can certainly use that and get the information on our social media. Go to ilbcc.org for more information and to become a member. Bye bye for now.